After our last video, people kept asking the same thing over and over in the comments. Why is the gray wolf hand sign so controversial? I saw this question come up so many times that I decided to make a whole video just about this hand gesture. I want to explain what it means and especially why it's caused so many problems across Europe. There's clearly a lot of confusion about this topic, so I hope this video will help clear things up. Let's start by talking about the gray wolf itself, and then we'll move on to discuss the hand sign and why it's become such a big issue. The gray wolf has been a huge part of Turkic culture for thousands of years, and I'm not just talking about people in Turkey today, but all Turkic peoples everywhere. For Turks, the wolf has always been tied to where they come from and who they are. Wolves have always stood at the center of great origin stories. Just like Rome has the she-wolf and Norse mythology has Fenrir, Turkic peoples also had the gray wolf at the heart of their founding myths. You can find it in countless old stories and legends. One clear example is the foundation myth of the Gökturks, where the gray wolf plays the guiding role, showing just how important it has always been in Turkic culture. Even long before anyone was arguing about the hand sign, you could see how much the gray wolf meant to modern Turkey. When the Republic was first founded, they put it on their very first paper money. It showed up on almost every government poster back then. And here's something really interesting. Even Ataturk, the man who created modern Turkey, got the nickname the Gray Wolf. Now let's talk about the actual hand sign. The person who brought it to Turkey and made it famous was Alparslan Türkeş, the leader of the Nationalist movement party. There are a couple of different stories about how he discovered it. One version says he first saw it during a trip he made after the Soviet Union fell apart, when he met some Gagauz Turks who were using this gesture. Another story claims he noticed it during a visit to Azerbaijan, where the Turkish Azerbaijanis were making this sign all the time. He got curious about what it meant, so he asked the locals about it. They told him it represented the gray wolf, and he thought he'd give it a try himself. If you look closely at the old photos from both of those trips, you'll notice something curious. Turks himself wasn't even doing the hand sign quite right at first. In some pictures with the Gagauz Turks, and later again in Azerbaijan, you can clearly see him fumbling with the gesture, almost as if he was still trying to figure it out. At first, the gray wolf hand sign was seen within Turkish nationalist circles as a simple marker of identity, but over time, once it became tied to politics and street movements, its meaning started to change. Especially after the 2000s, as the Nationalist movement party drew closer to the ruling government, some groups began using the gesture as a kind of shield of impunity. When people who threatened others or staged street actions faced no punishment, the sign gradually shifted from being a national symbol to being perceived as a sort of crime pass. Seeing this, even criminal groups thought, if we ever get in trouble, let's flash the gray wolf sign or stick 3 crescents on our car. Maybe it'll protect us. In other words, a national symbol turned into something even the underworld used to feel safe. And this is exactly where negative views of the gesture started to grow inside Turkey. Because at that point, the gray wolf hand sign wasn't just representing nationalist identity anymore, it was increasingly associated with street fights, threats, and violence. For some people, the gesture was nothing more than a narrow symbol of the nationalist movement. For others, it had already become the sign of the mafia and criminal groups. Even within certain nationalist circles, the feeling grew that this symbol has been tainted too much. It's actually starting to harm us. On the other side, many began to label anyone who used the gesture as extremist or dangerous without a second thought. In short, the symbol gradually turned into something deeply polarizing in the eyes of society. The controversy around the gray wolf hand sign isn't limited to Turkey. In Europe, the gesture is viewed in a completely different way. In Europe, it's not seen as a reference to Turkic mythology or as a nickname once given to Ataturk. In their eyes, it's directly the symbol of the Grey Wolves organization. Official reports in countries like Germany, Austria, and France describe the Grey Wolves as an ultra-nationalist and violent group. And because of that, the hand sign itself automatically falls into the far-right category. Another reason is the clashes within the diaspora. Turks living in Europe often use the gesture as a show of defiance against Kurdish or Armenian groups. At demonstrations, football matches, and even street marches, the gray wolf hand sign was flashed as provocation. This turned it, in the eyes of European media, into a symbol of ethnic tension. As a result, in 2019, Austria outright banned the gray wolf hand sign. According to the law, anyone making the gesture or displaying the symbol in public can face fines of up to 4,000 euros or even 6 weeks in prison. Austria placed it in the same category as far-right symbols like the Nazi salute. In other words, flashing the gray wolf in Vienna is treated the same way as giving a Nazi salute. France went a step further in 2020 by banning the Grey Wolves organization altogether. The official reasoning was incitement to hatred and violence. Once the group was dissolved, the hand sign automatically became a target as well. The French Interior Minister even declared, "The Grey Wolves no longer exist in France." From that point on, making the gray wolf gesture in Paris wasn't just seen as a cultural symbol, it was treated as the sign of a banned organization. In Germany, the gray wolf hand sign isn't officially banned, but for years it has appeared in domestic security reports as an ultra-nationalist symbol. During Euro 2024, when Turkish player Mary Demirel flashed the gesture, it sparked a major controversy. Germany's interior minister publicly declared, "There is no place for symbols of Turkish far-right extremism in our stadiums," and called on UEFA to launch an investigation. At the end of the day, the Grey Wolf hand sign is caught between two worlds. In one, it's history, culture, and pride. In the other, it's politics, danger, and bans. And that tension is exactly what keeps the symbol so controversial. And if you enjoyed this video, you can support the channel by subscribing. It really helps us keep making videos like this, and it only takes a second. Special thanks to our YouTube community for the comments and questions that inspired this video. And also, thank you to everyone who shared sources, links, and ideas. Your help makes these videos possible.